What up, my freaks? RuinusInsight here with part 32 of my Total War Warhammer 3 modded Karl Franz Old World campaign. So as we saw last time, the nation called Todbringer to action and he was not found wanting, taking down army after army and belonging to the Dark Elves for the glory of Ulrich. Karth, of course, still remains, as that was effectively our first encounter with his faction, but I don't imagine that he has too many armies running around. He only does have 6 settlements, and he just destroyed 2.5 stacks, as well as, I don't know if Osberg was his capital, maybe Chenhild's monoliths were his capital, but it certainly was his tier 5 settlement. He might have another one here at Fjergard, but that'll mean that he only has the 2, considering that's his 6 settlements. So we're well on the way to destroying him and completing essentially this portion of the takeover of Norska. Still have to deal with Bloody Village as we are on the hunt for him with Jürgen Wagner, and will probably be so for a while yet. Anyway, in terms of what we got to do this time around, I believe we are about halfway through this particular turn. Gavin might still warrant a fight, but let's see who else wants to do some fighting and moving. Humphrey Bruckert, was there a reason you hadn't moved? I don't know if there is. Yeah, the issue with you is we just don't have enough armies to deal with you. What do we have at Vizaya? Basically no defenders. I'm kind of tempted to just transfer it on over to Carcassonne, and if they lose it, we could just take it back later. Now, let's do that. Let's see how they react to this. So you can have Vizaya, and just for nothing. I mean, I guess we could get you to declare war on some jerks. Not gonna do the exiles in the heck. Let's do that. Oh, wow. Okay. Not the bloody hands. They're basically dead. Oh, okay, not the Clan Molder either. Okay, whatever. It really doesn't matter. Frankly, with most of these guys not in range. Oh, did I get you to declare war on Clan Scryer? I did, huh? Alright, I'm just curious. Carcassonne, how much would it cost us to get another questing night? We've got 41. Alright, well, we're on the way, but it'll take a little bit. Alright, I guess you can head down to Valley of Windmills, which, I see some Slaneshi corruption from adjacent provinces. I thought the Slaneshi were dead. That's a lot of Slaneshi corruption, plus 17? Oh, I guess it's from this, okay. And I guess the Slaneshi aren't dead after all. Alright, well, good job to Nakari. I would like to... I would like to fight him. I just also realized I don't think we can save Tehanoan. And these are his last 2 territories. It's interesting that the AI is kind of unwilling to kill your enemies, but it is absolutely willing to kill your friends. Go figure. Anyway, we'll see if we can make our way down to Raganos before Aked Claw destroys them for good. For now, though, we will... Oh, we got war wagons here. It's not worth fighting, but we do got war wagons. Alright, don't screw me on this game. And hey, this time the war wagon survived. You never know. You never know. It's always up to chance, I guess. Or maybe not chance, it's just that I have no idea how it actually works. Anyway, well, you've got Valley of Windmills, and... In fact, to be safe, what we could do is this. Get outside of Valley of Windmills, and then immediately trade it to Tehanoan. Like so. And just so that somebody has this territory. And this should guarantee his survival, at least while we're around here. We'll need more armies down here to, ensure it. Oh, what is this? Magritta has survived, or revived, I should say. We actually do want Magritta the territory for ourselves because of the Archecclesiastium of Myrmidia, especially now that we have the Myrmidia army up and running. And the +1 control faction-wide. It's a nice landmark, though there would be no contiguity of our empire. I'll think about it. It's not that it matters over much anyway. Anyway, let's see who's up next in terms of moving. And, oh lord, okay, wait. Where were we? Humphrey Bruckert.
An immaculate execution.
Completely derailed my train of thought here. Alright, there he is. Alright, Theodric Gosser, I kind of don't know what to do with you because I think we might not be using that guy after all, as in the Sigmar disciples there. Valmir, you're fine where you are. Kurt Helborg, I believe I said I wanted you to heal for one more turn before heading to Grung Stekbrud. Although, I mean, I might actually be able to do it. Let's see what we got here. I don't see the defenders from the Slaneshi, so maybe we can step on in. This guy's going to retreat to Kazat Bolgasgrad, and maybe that's just fine. The defenders here are also relatively weak, so he should be able to just auto-resolve it. It's not like even if Scarbrand revives, he'll immediately attack us. Alright, I'm gonna risk auto-resolving this and hope the game doesn't screw us over too hard. I mean, obviously we could fight it, but we know we'd win, and this is kind of meh. More damage, interestingly, to the infantry, which is... Is that right or wrong in this particular situation? It's right in the sense that they would be sent in first, but it's wrong in the sense that the cavalry would have a more difficult time in an enemy settlement. Minor settlement battle, as it was supposed to be. Kurt Helborg, you don't need that obsidian amulet. We'll give you a... Oh, actually, you don't have any kind of item. Do we have any spare talismans of endurance? Let me just check here real quick so he has something. I feel like Kurt Helborg should be outfitted pretty darn well and... Okay, now I should have some talismans of endurance in here. Hello? Okay, I'll look for it later, whatever, I don't care. I did 2 passes and I didn't find it, and I probably skipped over it both times, but, well, I'll try to remember to do that between the episodes or next time that we get another Talisman of Endurance. Anyway, Builder von Wolfen, you're stuck where you are because the building has been completed. Recruiter rolled and you're kind of in the same situation. Volkmar the Grim, you are headed towards a fight. Edmund Barrackmere, alright. Let's get you into Trench's stance. Let's also... Can't believe these guys are still alive. Okay, I'm just gonna hope that the Tomb Kings deal with them. We're not at war with them, technically speaking. So hopefully they don't come down here to the Oasis of Blood, which I just leveled up. But anyway, alright, you are at war with Khemri. Alright, Khemri, we'll join your war against the Necrarch Brotherhood. And for a mere 323 money, we could go for the Defensive Alliance, which I guess we'll want to do. It'll give us a vision, at the very least. Huh, I note that they don't like the... Wait. The Rock of Dennis... Okay, they don't seem to like the... Or they are not liked by the archaeological expedition, but we could probably confederate them ourselves, so we'll just ignore that as well. Anyway, got some Tomb King allies now. And Volky. We're already fighting enough Tomb Kings, and I mean, we could fight Cetra, but I don't know. I didn't want to fight Arcan originally anyway. Anyway, Volkmar, time for another fight. We got a giant pile of zombies. I didn't see whether this was a minor settlement battle. And no, it's a field fight. Alright, that should be good. Go. Alrighty, here we go. In the name of Sigmar, the armies of Sigmar will make their debut here. And just a quick check on these guys. So, wait a moment. I just want to make a quick comparison. So these guys have twin maces, and these guys, what, have a great mace or a great hammer? Looks like a great weapon either way to me. Hammer infantry, I suppose that's what it's supposed to mean here. Ooh, I like the ones that are like upside down bells. That's pretty neat. Anyway, we'll see how effective these guys are. They have 82 weapon strength, pretty solid, very high melee attack as usual. Of course, if they start losing melee combat, they get that strength of the Penitent activation, which is an increase to their melee defense and physical resistance. And now we have the... Wait, is it Imperial Allegiance that I was thinking of? I guess it was Imperial Allegiance. There was something else that we had as well. But anyway, it's a pretty solid combination. Frankly, this army would probably, I mean, Volkmar's army in general, I guess, would be a lot stronger if we spam Nordland Mariners in here, because between Strength of the Penitent and the Wayfarer and Frenzy and all the stuff that Volkmar gives to free companies, it would make Nordland Mariners pretty darn insane. But there's no need for it. And also the Nordland Mariners shoot much harder as well. But I like it in its current state, and have been definitely enjoying the fights. Anyway, the Sigmarite disciples and the armies of Sigmar together have clashed with the enemy forces, zombies, Morghuls, Graveguards, skeletons, what have you. And they're just going to have to cut their way through them, or mace their way through them, I suppose. Over on the left and right flank alike, we have our Knights of Moor, similar once again, working together with those Knights of the Everlasting Light, going after the enemy Cairn Wraiths and the enemy Black Knights. and dishing out plenty of damage to both, I'd wager, become the two auras of these two cav combining, which have worked so well in the past, will have no problem in dealing with the enemies. On the flanks, the flyers that have charged towards our relatively fragile free companies have at this point in time failed, though they have done some damage, 30% at least, to one of the new Altdorf retinues. The enemy is now out of flyers and only melee troops remain. The enemy lord and the vampire hero have both been defeated by Volkmar and his war shrine of Sigmar at this point. And he's just sort of riding through the battle lines, casting soul fires and various allure of Sigmar buffs. The balance of power has rapidly shifted to 90% in our favor, and now just a matter of time as the armies of Sigmar overwhelm the pile of enemy units. I definitely got to make a couple more armies with, you know, sort of higher numbers of those guys, as, once again, I've said it feels like, considering the sheer amount of buffs that Volkmar provides for the Free Company, it feels like they're the better pick in his army than the Flagellant variants, especially since they already have Strength of the Penitent, which is the biggest sort of thing that Volkmar offers. The Wayfarer is also absolutely fantastic. Anyway, and the enemy begins to melt away. Only a few enemies left. A Graveguard unit slowed down by that Prayer of Binding. That is a minus 50% speed. Only for 30 seconds, mind you, but it's a lot of gunfire to take for 30 seconds while that's on you. The warrior priest here has led the Sigmarite disciples and the army of Sigmar to victory, and with that, our victory is secured. A lovely debut for the army of Sigmar, or armies of Sigmar. I guess everything's an army of Sigmar. This Volkmar's army is an army of Sigmar, and we're all fighting for Sigmar's empire, so every army is an army of Sigmar. But you know what I mean. Alright, there we go. Solid debut for our newly minted armies of Sigmar. 58,000 damage, 515 kills, and 38,000 damage and 332. Of course, they took by far the most damage out of everybody, but considering their flagellants, that does make sense. And don't you worry, we'll get a few more of these guys in various different armies so that we can play around with them before the end of the campaign, as, well, they're a pretty fun unit. If flagellants weren't such a liability, and generally speaking, I'd probably use them more in the early game, but and due to the effectively sort of metagame nature of the overworld and needing to be concerned about casualty or punishment and all of that, obviously they're not the best units in the early game, even with their high damage dealing, due to their fragility. Anyway, a decisive victory, a solid amount of, well, in this case, I don't think we really care about the prestige anymore. We'll take the place, occupy. Alright, Potion of Foolhardiness, we'll turn that into something useful, hopefully. Settlement Colossus of Geheb will get a plague. We're just gonna build those up. And, I'm gonna leave the settlement. I generally don't know if that reduces the chance of us getting the plague as opposed to being directly inside the settlement, but who knows. Maybe it does. And maybe we can trade this to either Cetra, or if we can get the Springs of Eternal Life for some other territory, we can give it back to whatever this faction is. The Rakov Dynasty. How many territories do you have? 5. Alright, so you have a kind of a odd mix of territories amongst... Oh, basically this one territory is kind of out of place, isn't it? So we should probably take this one from Cetra. Now, funnily enough, I wonder if we could take the Citadel. Well, no, but then that would interrupt this. I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Well, let's see who's next after Volkmar instead. After Volkmar, did I skip you by? Apparently not. Alright, where is Volky? There we go. Marcus! Alright, you're admittedly still kind of damaged. Are you so damaged that you can't sit in one of these locations, though? Maybe not. Probably fight this and the half stack. How is Mr. Ernst Puttkamer looking? He's in a little bit worse shape. We do, oh right, we do still have a bunch of these guys that I forgot about. Well, maybe didn't forget. Might be a slightly different way of going about this. Alright, wait. Marcus, go into Citadel of Light. We'll see what the enemy does compared to this. I think what we'll do is this. I want an army that is full Vanguard deployment capable, and for that, we need the new Altdorf companies from this army, meaning we don't really need them in this army anyway because they're... let's do that. They are present in Jürgen Wagner's army. Let's get you 2 more Nordland Mariners. There we go. A little bit more armor doesn't hurt either. And that's a significant amount of pistol power. Then, just to get them on cooldown, we can get the Grey Mountain Band in here. I know that we're keeping them, but just in case Marcus loses another one, we can transfer him. And what he needs rather. And this can function as an auto-resolve army. And the presence of this army... oh, are you able to... oh, you're not able to reach the Bleakmoor anyway. These guys might attack it next turn. But if they do, I guess we'll just move over there ourselves anyway. Anyway, you're going to move here, and you're going to channel, and then you are going to get ready to move out there and help anyway. You are going to go here. This is our... oh, this is technically our territory. But we will still suffer attrition due to chaos corruption? Yes, alright, so we'll need to wait a little bit before that's gone, but you can go here anyway. Alrighty, and then these 2 mages will go into these various armies. And then we'll have room for probably... they're not pistols, so... we'd stuck be getting a non-pistol unit either way. We could do a couple of witch hunters, but then it's a waste not to have them summon their retinue, which are crossbows. I'll think about it. Officer squads have guns and not pistols, but they do have swords. We could... I'll think about it. Admittedly, we could also probably use the additional range damage coming in from the units of the engineers, but that's kind of the same situation, isn't it? I guess it doesn't matter over much. We'll think about it. Anyway, Marcus, you were the next in the order. Let's see who's actually next. In terms of finding a fight, I hope. Gavin, the other Gavin. Oh, right, you're the Bretonnian Gavin. I really should give you a different name just so I don't confuse you, but anyway. Bolgasgrad-wise, that's a decent pile of pump wagons and stuff, but what do we have in Granite Massif? It's alright. Let's see what the auto-resolve says about this. But let's level up before we do. You have your red line, and I believe your red line is effectively completed because there isn't really too much to get. You don't need armor for Reiksguard because you don't have Reiksguard. I just wanted to make sure that we get the bonus armor for the Grey Mountain Bat. Up to 120 now, and discounting the Gold Wizard and the other stuff, which is pretty solid. Empire Captains, let's level you as well. I think we'll just get the officer squad. It feels like a waste not to have them, even if we are using the Bretonnian troops, and it's not like they're going to out-damage the rest of the army anyway. So Deadly Blade, Foe Seeker, and then we'll go lead the state troops and officer squad. And then you can do the same thing. Lead state troops, officer squad, Deadly Blade... what did I do? Huh, wait, you don't have the same point attribution. What the heck, why? What did I do here? You have Esteemed Combatant maxed out and then have went through this entire line. You have Esteemed Combatant. Okay, well, I did it somehow differently, and I don't remember how it was, but whatever, it's all good. Alrighty, and then the Gold Wizard. Onslaught might be nice, but Final Transmutation of Lead is pretty critical here. Plague of Rust, Glittering Robe, yeah, anything that makes our Bretonnians a little bit less likely to die. Yeah, let's do that. And, yeah, might as well max it out. Alrighty, good enough. Let's then send you into trenches. Into the trenches ye shall go. I wonder if it would be better to attack outside the settlement so that we can then chase down this guy. No, but then we get stuck sacking this place anyway, so it wouldn't really change matters, so just go. Just go. This faction's pretty much dead anyway. Pyrrhic victory, you say. I mean, admittedly, it's a lot of pump wagons and stuff, but I'd wager while unbuffed, gobs would probably be on par with Bretonnian peasants, maybe a little bit worse, depending on the gobs. Forest gobs better, regular gobs worse, but with us buffed as we are, they should be able to handle those gobs just fine. Am I talking out my... well, let's find out. Go. All right. Once again, every single time I hear that the silence of the Grand Masters, I get slightly confused, but not for long. And then I just remembered that I have the memory of a goldfish and have forgotten for the 50th time. Anyway, here we go. Our Bretonnian army at it once more, and looks like we'll be holding another big choke point this time around, rather than 2 smaller choke points. I'm perfectly fine with that, and I'm excited to see how our now 160 armored Grey Mountain Band faces off against the orcs. In fact, they now have an equivalent amount of armor compared to the Grail Knights. They got peasants as armored as Grail Knights. It's a magnificent. And frankly, they have a fairly decently higher bit of melee defense on them, and on top of that, of course, they also have that Imperial Allegiance should they start losing combat. Anyway, unfortunately, it doesn't look like the enemy is going to move towards us since we're attacking them, so we're going to pop a spell off on them to make sure that they come a little bit closer. Here we go, gonna go for one single Gehenna's Golden Hounds in the midst of some blob of units. It doesn't really matter which, as long as it forces them to come to us and try their hand at breaking through those Bretonnian halberds. Alrighty, let's see if that Gehenna's Golden Hounds is enough. I want to see how much damage this one spell will have done as well. Enemies still milling around. They could have also been waiting for their reinforcements, which, there we go, 40 units on the field, 41 units available to the enemy. Alright, and that's what I like to see. And they're reforming and moving towards us. There we go. Alrighty, that's a big old pile of units. Of course, we could cast another Gehenna's Golden Hounds and a Searing Doom in their way, but we're not going to do that. And we're just going to let them move towards us, as I want to see the Grey Mountain Band and get ready to do their work. They may have stats, at least in some ways, and just in some ways, on par with the Grail Knights, but obviously they don't have the mass, they don't have the charge, they don't have the regen, they don't have the mobility. There's a lot of stuff they don't have. They don't have the HP, and of course the model count is a massive 120 compared to the 32 of the Grail Knights, though I am of the opinion that the Grail Knights count should probably be reduced a little bit. 32 feels like it's a little bit much, considering the rarity of Grail Knights. But anyway, the enemy moves towards us and actually starts the battle with a boom squig. I don't remember the squig that goes boom. The exploding squig. And does a decent bit of damage to at least one of our units of Grey Mountain Band, who lose about 40% of their HP. The rest of the enemies have arrived, however, and pump wagons, squigs, gobos aplenty, and even the occasional orc and biggin. I guess they're both orcs, but anyway, have crashed into our lines. Now it's time to see how well we can hold them off. And for the nonce, we will be keeping our unit of Grail Knights back. Of course, we could charge them into the enemy lines and through, but we're going to wait until the enemy reinforcements are all here. And I want to see about the enemy lords closing the distance as well. I'm going to pop that Doom of Nagash on everybody, and I noticed that it causes everybody to glow a little bit, at least during its activation, giving everybody another 10 melee defense and bumping our melee defense up to 90 on this line. And there we go, the enemy lord has arrived, and it's time to charge towards the enemy lines and get those Grail Knights working a little bit. It's a pretty big old pile of enemies after all, and the Grail Knights won't be killing them all. I was hoping that the officer squads, which I ended up deciding to actually summon, would provide a little bit support firing over the heads of the rest of the army to kill off the orc error boys, but it looks like they are unable to do so, which is a bit of a shame. Maybe this is my mistake. Maybe if I could position them up here a little bit more, they would have been able to fire back at the enemy. I'm actually kind of surprised that they're not able to fire back at all here. I mean, I feel like there's enough distance here over the heads of our own units to be able to fire into the archers all the way back there, but maybe that's just me. Anyway, the enemy's still failing to break through our lines, and I think shortly we will have done enough work with our units of Bretonnian peasants to finally drop a few spells on the enemy, which we have not been doing so far. I'm going to start with the Gehenna's Golden Hounds on those enemy range units, since the game was not allowing us to hit them back with our own range, and get ready for a nice big Searing Doom and a pile of enemies as well. Alright, I hear the Gehenna's Golden Hounds still going. and get a scroll of blast going into the enemy blob, but it does basically nothing, which is kind of interesting. I guess you shouldn't use scroll of blast when you're hovering overhead, huh? Better off using it as a grounded unit to try to move through an enemy line, kind of like Mercurial Shot from the Engineers, as it seems to pierce units, but when dropped from above, it just, you know, smashes into the ground instead. I assumed that it would have an explosion, kind of like a fireball would, but apparently not. Frankly, I don't like the item, but I believe it's an ability that's bound to the Lord due to, or to the Mage due to his trait, so, and that's why we have it. Not that it's important. A Searing Doom comes down and just slightly clips our own units and damages decently the enemy, but there are so many gobs that even the overcast Searing Doom won't do a crazy amount. On the bright side, the enemy lords are in pretty bad shape, both the Black Orc Big Boss and the War Boss here. Actually, the War Boss is still fine, but the Lord should be getting to him any second now. There we go. Just have to move through the press towards him. Now don't tell me you're being blocked by peasants. Well, blame the peasants, it's a Bretonnian army, and, well, we gotta act like Bretonnians after all. Anyway, we're going to have now the Grail Knights charge through. They could have been doing this the entire time. We've seen them in previous battles, just using their mass to be obnoxious in this manner, but obviously I wanted the piles of men-at-arms to do their thing, and do their thing they did as they saw off the enemy attack, blocked off the choke point, and carried the day for us, and destroying the Burning Face orcs or greenskins for good. I guess it's a I'm pretty sure it's a goblin faction because the Burning Face is has the icon of the Bad Moon. Huh. I don't remember any kind of fire associated goblins, Bad Moon, Goblin, Fire. Huh. I gotta read up on this particular minor faction if it actually exists and if it has lore. Might be neat. Fire-centric factions are always fun, but anyway, there we go. Close victory, apparently. I'm genuinely not sure why, because we didn't really suffer that much damage, and it's not like this army has ammunition, and we barely used any magics, except that once the enemy started to run, so, I'm not entirely sure. But I suppose it doesn't matter, because it really wasn't close at all. Hey, another Band of Eternal Flame. Nice fight. Enemy army not quite completely obliterated, but very, very close to it. And the Bretonnians with 160 armor on peasants is pretty darn solid by the looks of it. It's crazy amount of damage, obviously, on the Grail Knights, but that is always the case, and that's why we only have one of them in the army, as more would just be a Grail Knight army, rather than a Men-at-Arms army, in the same way that the, the Demigryph Knights function in their own. Anyway, we'll keep the Banner of Eternal Flame. Huh. Actually, I wonder what the base weapon damage on the peasantry here is, as to whether this will help. The range is rather short, but... we could pop it on the Grail Knights as well. Wait, let me just see this. Banner of Eternal Flame, sure. Let us sack this for a second and stop moving. I want to see if we can go through, chase these guys down, and go back to it. If I could just select you. I could just... Please stop. Don't move away. Don't move. Please. Please stop. Okay. Alright, let's see how far we can go here. Looks like we can't go past it anyway, so it was a waste of time to sack it. Okay, so out of curiosity, we got fairly high base weapon damage on the Grail Knights rather than armor piercing. A little bit surprising, I might add. But, I mean, I guess they don't need to be any stronger than they are. What about you guys? You guys also have solid base weapon. Huh. Yeah, alright, fine. You can keep the Banner of Eternal Flame. It can work for you in this particular army. Probably every army could probably use one. Anyway, you can grab Granite Massif, we'll occupy it. And then next turn, these guys will attack and destroy themselves. And then, okay, you know what? You just sit out here so you don't get damaged. And you can channel while you're at it. And then they will attack it, and then we will transfer it, trade it to these guys. It's not like we're going to get the Gate of the Stars, and I guess we'll have to proceed this way. I would have loved to go after Arbal the Undefeated here, but I think this army can't do it right now. How's Imric doing, incidentally? Not great. He's still very much surrounded by enemies, but he's still kicking, at least himself. I would imagine that it's very hard to defeat Imric's own army, even if other armies aren't quite as difficult. We could always build another army here at the Cursed City, because we have kept it as a staging ground, in fact built it up as a staging ground should we need to. And I will consider thinking about it. Let's move on as to seeing who's next after Mr. Gavin here. The list. Alrighty, what do we have here? Recruiter, now we can ignore you. Colt Holdorf. Yes. Okay, so you need to go after the Slaaneshi. There are a lot of Slaaneshi out there. Alright, let us... I guess the best way... Okay, you really would like a mage against the Slaaneshi, but, well, if we don't have it, we don't have it. I'm gonna pop you right into the edge of our own territory. We'll see if the Slaaneshi decide to attack you on the basis of that. Why in our own territory? Because Slaaneshi corruption... Oh, we already have the Slaaneshi corruption here, don't we? Yeah, they have that seduce units budget that I would like to not use, but it is what it is. Let's hope we can reduce the budget anyway by our presence. Let's also get a few points in here. Now, you already have the Vanguard, which is fine. You don't need Taste for Battle since you have no Cav. It looks like your red line is completed, isn't it? Probably remove one of the handgunners and then replace it with a mage. That's probably the best way to do it. Actually, this army could really use a war drum as well. But anyway, for now, let us go through, I think, Imperial training, or at least start going through it. I think we'll get at least hold the line. Sigmar's Ward, not crazy useful, admittedly, against Slaaneshi. Imperial training into survival instincts so that you yourself are stronger. You don't have a hand weapon. You're gonna stay on the Griffin, I think. Let's give you one of the Rune Fangs. Magical damage, lots of extra damage. Hopefully we can pick up a few more Rune Fangs on the way as well. You too, what do we have here? You have the Officer Squad, Esteemed Combatant, and Remember Your Training, which are the important bits. I guess we can max out... Oh, actually, I was going to say max out trading to get these guys additional XP, but they don't need it either. Markification, Sigmar's Ward, just so that we don't have to pick those up later then. And then you can go through Esteemed Combatant. Yes. Get that additional armor-piercing weapon damage when defending, though again, against the Slaaneshi it isn't the most useful bit. We are the elite, max that out, and you're hopefully ready for some fighting. What about Valkia? I assume we can't reach her? She's just at the edge of our range, which I'm willing to bet the AI is doing on purpose. Well, go after her. Huh. You have no items. Was there a reason for that? Optical specialist? Yeah, I guess we're keeping you as the leader of this army. Why not? Has a fair bit of range ability after all. In fact, it's mostly a ranged. Well, it's actually a very balanced army in terms of what it has. But anyway, Pistol Core obviously is critical here. And War Wagons and Imperial Foot and Teutogan Guard. Well, the Imperial Foot are speed of horse, but it's kind of a terrible buff and frankly not worth it. Honest Steel is okay, but I feel like we might actually get more mileage out of Mighty Forge. And just to power up those War Wagons. Speed of Horse is useless to us, Emperor's Finest is useless to us. Let's go Mighty Forge, let's go Rally. I'm gonna say hold the line, definitely Sharpshooter, definitely Strength of Hardship, stand your ground. Taste for Battle not useful, but Artillery Master is. And then I guess we can go through Honest Steel before moving through the rest of these. We don't need Spell Resistance against Khorne. Well, actually... Murderous Exhortations could still be in effect, but not from Valkia herself. Oh, actually, I imagine that Spear of Sleipnir counts as a magic. Yeah, it does. Magical damage wind. Not for you personally, but, you know, it is still magic. I think we get more mileage out of extra powder than we would on a steel, so I think we'll start moving through towards extra powder instead. Anyway, Grey Wizard. What are you missing? Oh, I never... Okay. Let's get into the shadows. Stalk, Slippery, Ambush, Success Chance. Not that this army will be likely to be attempting to go through it. Let's get Melkoths, and Penumbral Pendulum will be useful in this army. Smoke and Mirrors, at least 1 point in Enfeebling Foe. Rarely used, but, you know, on occasion. The Withering, definitely max out Pit of Shades. Earthing, Magical Reserves, and Arcane Conduit. Let's get 2 points into Occam's Mind Razor. I'm gonna say... Grab Onslaught. We might as well get Potent. You don't have... Okay, you have that miscast chance reduction, so we'll actually go for calming rather than experienced for the additional anti-miscast. We already have the miscast reduction here as well. And to get your mark of hit in case you hurt yourself via miscasting. Max out Penumbral Pendulum. I don't imagine you'll get attacked considering your speed. Valkia could never catch you, so I'm going to say further study. I do like untapped potential and Sorcerer's Shielding as well, but considering the number of points we have remaining, we might be better off just maxing out your magics. Keep this up on an enemy lord, why not? And Melkot's Mystifying Miasma is actually a fairly good spell in SFO. Alrighty, and then we'll have, what, 4 or 5 points to play around with afterwards? I think that's fine. Anyway, go after Valkia, she's going to move away, but there's a decent likelihood that she will send more enemies after us next turn. As in, there could be an army here and she could come down. Let's find out. Oh, she's not going to run. But this isn't worth fighting. Decisive victory casualties low. Not worth it. I'm gonna quick save it because I don't trust... Oh, it's gonna kill our war wagons, isn't it? It's got some okay stuff, but obviously they have no chance here. They'd just be obliterated from range. Auto-resolve. Don't kill the war wagons. Don't do it, game. Huh, no, it killed a bunch of the infantry. Alright, that's fine. Alrighty, and melee attack +2 Lord's Army. Not the most useful trait for this particular army. Would have been nice for Karl, and armor-piercing weapon damage, again, not super useful for you, but it is what it is. Just stay here and get ready to move out there. At least this way we have preserved the, preserved these territories. Also, you're moving up here, aren't you? You're mostly here to move to help Dolph.
It is for the best.
And by help, I mostly mean, you know, auto-resolve stuff that he doesn't have time for.
Yes,
Yeah. Alrighty, well, that was out of order, wasn't it? So, was it Dietz Huss who just moved, or was it Colt Holdorf? Alright. Ernst Puttkamer, who's Colt Thorpe's? Oh, you're waiting for recruitment. Ernst Puttkamer, you're this guy, you're fine where you are. Damn it. Volgar Ludenhoff, okay, you're waiting for recruitment. Helmut Feuerbach, you were waiting for your own army. If we need another one down here, we could also reset you and send you somewhere else if we need to. Luther Custerman, you're mostly down here to act as a follower lord to follow. So I guess we can move you here. And then down here beside you somewhere.
True servant of Sigmar.
Alright, come on now. Siegfried Schneider. Who are you again? The fire army. The fledgling fire army. You can keep moving. Gonna be a bit. Emil Hammerheim, you are waiting for the recruitment to be completed, but the crossbows are nearly ready to go, though we have to figure out what kind of melee troops we want in here. I really wish we could have ogre allies, because there's a bunch of armies where I wanted to put some ogre units in, but, well, what can you do? Nobody here has crossbows. Oh, I wanted to get the new Altar of Company as well. We also have additional Imperial Foot into Togen Guard, I'm not so sure that we need the Imperial Foot anywhere, and... Okay, well, I believe we're at the end of the list anyway. So, there's two things to do. First of all, let's get the new Altar of Retinue in this army, because that's where we were going to put them, since this is going to be a more Vanguard deploying heavy army, and that'll be the sort of the mainline infantry for them. And then we'll have to find a few other things that can Vanguard deploy, primarily most likely Outriders and such. Frankly, you could probably recruit down here, and more frankly, we could probably... Do we have a spare recruiter lord anywhere? Huntsman... this guy's level 19, so we could level him to be a recruiter lord at any point. Though he won't have the same kind of buffs as everybody else, it's probably a decent option. Let's get you here, put you in. Let's get you... Route Marcher. Not Circle of Protection, Survival Expert, so you can deliver troops faster. Then we can go Iron Disciplinarian. A Leader of Renown. Irrepressible. Into... None of this helps here. I guess Quartermaster. It's got Hunter that we want. Let's also grab Fervent. Anything else that will reduce enemy corruptions here? I don't believe anything will. Alright, so let's get you Inspiring Presence. Alrighty, and then you... You can grab Outriders with guns, no pistols here. I imagine decent... Well, all the War Wagons can Vanguard deploy. I think all War Machines can Vanguard deploy, in fact. And then we'll have to figure out what kind of Vanguard deployable units we want from an ally to sort of make this army complete. Alright, I'll think about it. Should maybe get... Ooh, I wonder, can... I have an idea. Oh, I have an interesting idea, actually. I don't think they're Vanguard deployable, but I really like the unit, and I wanted to put them into an army. Where are Cathayan faction? Here, I wanted Sky Lanterns. I know it's weird to say that you like Sky Lanterns, but in SFO, they're amazing units. When I played Cathay, I realized that in SFO, Sky Lanterns are one of my favorite units on the Cathay roster, which is so strange. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. Anyway, where's the other Cathayan factions? Jade Court, maybe? Yeah, we got 100 with them as well. Let's get... Oh, you gotta be kidding me. You guys can't build Sky Lanterns? At least they can build War Drums. We can put those in a couple of armies. Well, it is what it is. Let's do... Western Provinces. You should be able to build Sky Lanterns, right? Yeah, and pretty cheap at that. Only 16. Huh, wait, how much do they cost with the Darklands Bandits? I guess I don't really care. Alright, well, we'll do that. They can't Vanguard deploy, but what they can do is float on close, and their range is pretty massive, so it doesn't really matter. Plus, as the enemy gives chase to the Vanguard deployed units, they can move in to reinforce and support. Anyway, okay, why are we here? We wanted to take a look at any other units that we might want to summon. And we do have Wissenberg's Welcomers. We have you at one point. We have you at one point. So it's basically these four, but I don't think they're really needed anywhere at the current time. I was potentially thinking of, you know what, just in case we needed some spares, let's put you two in this army with the rest of these guys. Just lots of support units supporting each other. Ulrich and Sigmar together. And I wanted to put those Grand Cauldron regulars and Bordermen somewhere as well. But you know what, we'll leave them for emergencies. Wait, I was about to say let's end the turn. Since nobody's coming in to attack you, Gavin, I guess we're attacking this place ourselves. Oh, right, wait, we'll wait one more turn. I wanted to get some siege towers so that we could have this be a little bit less annoying to deal with. Alright, fine, fair enough. You sit there for one more turn. Let's skip. Damage building? Alright, this. Skip outpost available. Now we'll do it next turn, or I'll do it between the episodes if I remember. End turn. I forgot about this, but I am glad that they sallied out. Alright, Pyrrhic victory, and... maybe this was a main settlement, and that's why I didn't actually forget about it. I wanted them to sally out. I'm just gonna assume that's the case and go. Go.
Dark magics I bring from the shores of death. You should fear me, my friends, but not half as much as the enemy will.
Alrighty, here we go. I bet Emmeric's jealous of the Carmine Dragon because he can't collect them all since, well, Elspeth has the only one in the game. Anyway, here we go. And the enemy's got a pretty big old pile of units, and we are going to wait for them to come to us. While Elspeth goes off and does at least a little bit of annoyance at the enemy. Not a major amount. I want to make sure that we damage at least the enemy artillery and the... I'm gonna say 2 shamans? I see 2 here, yeah, 2 shamans. Those gazes of Mork can be really irritating if you let them do their thing. Anyway, Elspeth uses a non-overcast Purple Son of Zoraeus, which does a little bit of damage. I've never liked the spell, but as I've mentioned, at least with Elspeth, considering it's so incredibly cheap, it's kind of worth using, but otherwise, Anyway, and now we're just going to wait for the enemy to come to us. The Nuln Ironsides, the officers' squad, the tanks, the artillery, and even the Knights of the Black Rose, all arrayed in a nice, neat line. If the enemy should close the distance enough with our main line, our knights will simply charge on forth. Once again, it's really just too bad that we don't have heavy cav with guns, ideally, in the form of the, well, Knights of War, probably. It would be really nice here as well, with just heavily armored troops, but also being able to fire. And granted, we can get enough buffs on our units of Outriders or our units of Pistoliers, or specifically the Knights Abroad, the Noble Sons Abroad, rather, to, you know, be sort of a medium heavy, maybe, type of deal. But nonetheless, You gotta work too hard at that. Anyway, here we go. The battle's going to begin with the enemy starting to move towards us and Elspeth moving towards them once again. The rocket batteries are going to let loose their, well, rockets. While we wait for the enemy to strike back. Mostly we have been waiting to fire upon the enemy. And specifically, we'll want to target their own artillery pieces so that they don't fire at us. I want the two lines to clash rather than the battle to be won by artillery, whether ours or theirs. Admittedly, we only do have the 2 rocket batteries in this army. Again, because I always feel like our rocket batteries are extremely OP in the campaign against the AI. And it's always surprised me that the Hellstorms are tier 2s. They gotta be at least tier 3 units, right? I mean, in what world is a rocket battery a tier 2 unit? But anyway. I suppose if you consider its tier to be based on the building requirements rather than the effectiveness of the unit, there is that. But nonetheless. Alrighty, well, the rocket batteries are going to continue doing their work. Looks like, I want to say 2 of the enemy's own artillery pieces have been knocked out, and frankly, a lot of the enemy units that have been standing outside, or near the enemy artillery pieces are in pretty bad shape as well. Elspeth could have obviously also been bombarding the enemy with magics at this point, but we're just having her hover over the main line until the enemy gets ready to move on in. There we go, and then there was, I want to say, 1 artillery piece remaining. Yeah, there we go. One's just a crew, this one's destroyed, and then there is this one still moving. And just having moved into range, and we're going to retarget it as well. I also see the steam tanks have been firing away at the enemy. I'm just curious, though. 143 kills on Stormhammer so far, but it looks like the enemy is going to fire back with its own magical artillery. Those gazes of Mork that we've been so concerned about. In my own Orky campaign, I noticed that just a use or 2 of this particular spell is fantastic at knocking down artillery pieces, and that is absolutely the same here. 1 single use, and Gaze of Mork hits all 4 of our artillery pieces, knocking out, destroying every single unit. That's what, 6 mana to completely wipe out a rocket battery across the map with greater range than enemy artillery pieces have. It's pretty crazy. And seeing that, I think Elspeth has to move shortly, at the very least to start dropping once again spirit leeches on the enemy. I mostly wanted our artillery to take the enemy artillery out, but if the enemy is going to keep using magical artillery in that way, then we'll just have to deal with that as well. Anyway, enemies still moving on in, and it does look like they've sent a fair few pump wagons over on the left flank so far, and they'll probably be moving in on the right flank as well. I do see plenty of reinforcements ready to move in shortly, too. Alright, and Elspeth has dropped another Spirit Leech, a Fate of Buna, and in a couple of seconds, that breath. There we go. Should have used that earlier because a single use of it immediately wipes out the enemy shaman, who hits once again our artillery pieces and this time knocks out 2 out of the 4 Hellstorms. Not as effective as it was the first time, but nonetheless, for 6 mana or whatever that costs, is pretty darn useful. Elspeth comes down with her dragon upon the second shaman, and he is out at this point. And the battle will be joined with the mundane units as they fight. Speaking of, the Knights of the Black Rose have closed the distance with the 3 pump wagons that have arrived over on the left flank. Luckily for us, they're not the spiky rollers, and they're not going to be particularly threatening to the Knights of the Black Rose. They'll still do some damage, I'm sure, because pump wagons are insanely overpowered, but the basic ones are not nearly as much compared to the spiky rollers. And without the armor piercing, considering we got 145 armor and 71 melee defense in the Knights of the Black Rose, man, that's a lot of melee defense. These guys would be really good dismounted as foot knights, wouldn't they? Well, nonetheless, anyway, the enemy army is moving towards us now. The Nuln Ironsides firing away, and the Grenadiers and the war wagons and the Wissenberg's Velkomers waiting to welcome the enemy with the grenade volley. Like so, and send them packing pretty much immediately. I mean, repeater rifles and grenades in your face on a medieval battlefield, that's gotta be a pretty scary sight. And even the orcs, dumb though they may be, should be well intelligent enough to fear it. I do imagine that no unit will actually be able to reach our main line, and it's up to the enemies on the flanks to attempt to close the distance. Fortunately, over on the left flank, the enemy pump wagons have at this point been destroyed. Trolls are heading towards us as well, but obviously our Nuln Ironsides are hosing them down, and more importantly, slowing them down. Trolls, which move at a normal 55 move speed, and down to infantry speeds, and a few volleys take them out. And I do imagine the fire weakness that they have means that we do a little bit of extra damage with our units of grenadiers as well. Alright. I do like seeing the knights as part of the main line like this, since it's not something we normally do. We should make an army based on this concept. I mean, I guess we could just do that with this army then again. I was just thinking about the other army where I was saying we might want to put a few units of Knights of the Black Rose in combination with a few whatever units cause any kind of contact effects. That contact effect army. Bleed and Maim from those snow leopards, which we wanted to put somewhere where their maim isn't wasted by virtue of being overwritten by banishment from the Knight's Panther. Anyway, battle's nearly ours. Bounce power's at about 90% in our favor. Unit of pump wagons has surprisingly but foolishly attempted to actually charge one of our units of Knights of the Black Rose, who we didn't even bother to move. I frankly thought that these guys wouldn't even try it, considering they were under fire, but all good. Couple more volleys from anyone and everyone, and whatever other units still moving towards us will be shattering. And the balance of power should be just about ours. Minus the extremely light rocket fire now coming in from us, down from 8 to only 2 artillery pieces, thanks to those great gazes of Mork. And nonetheless, it is not enough to clinch the day or even come close to it from the enemy, and we're going to do our best to give chase and run down whatever enemies we can, so that we can afterwards auto-resolve. Nice fight for Elspeth, but I think the enemy will need more than 2 stacks to fight her army. Alright, there we go. No problemo. Well, 7. Not even relatively. Just very minimal damage. It was a darn good shot from whether it was Maggot or the Orc Shaman, the Great Shaman or the regular Shaman. Whoever got that Gaze of Morkop that instantly one-shot all 4 artillery pieces. That was pretty darn good, you gotta admit. And the second one hit 2 out of 4 of the Hellstorms, but basically they disabled our artillery. Unfortunately, that did not do enough for them to actually win the day. So, sucks to be them, I guess. We'll execute captive. Heal up the tiny amount, I guess.
Our faith reinvigorated.
And they will attack. Oh, okay. I was somewhat not expecting that, but pleasantly surprised. This should be a very interesting fight. The capability of the Slaaneshi to close the distance really quickly and get into our vulnerable back lines. Will our halberdiers, led by the Altdorf Company of Honor, be able to hold against all of this, especially without a mage or rocket batteries to actually cause droves of casualties? Let's find out. Alrighty, here we go. Big old pile of Slaaneshi against classic Pike and Shot. That is gonna be fun. And where better to hold a classic Pike and Shot defense than to hold a hill against the encroaching hordes. Should be a pretty darn good fight. On top of that, since the enemy's waiting for their reinforcements to arrive, we'll have 40 enemy units attempting to overwhelm our lines, including with all the enemy fast movers all at once, which should be pretty great. Pike and shot armies are pretty darn fun. Well, I would have liked to do a checker formation to have their sort of first fight, but, well, the hill will necessitate a slightly modified kind of half-moon position. Especially if we want to take advantage of these hills and these cliffs rather, these little copses of trees around us, etc., etc. Man, I really miss the pike and shot army from my Manfred campaign. I had so much fun doing the undead pike and shot, especially with the Graveguard halberds. Their heavy armor is nice, and in combination with those handgunners, those zombie handgunners, especially considering they're a little bit weaker than the handgunners of ours, because we can't buff them when playing them as vampire counts rather than coast. It was such a glorious army that had so many close calls against primarily lizards, because they fought them a lot, but man... I'm so biased for the vampire counts that every time I reminisce about playing them, it just makes me want to play them again. But anyway, for now, we've got a lot of Empire to do, and the enemy has arrived, which means we're gonna start doing our cannons and our Hellblasters will start the day. Well, actually, our cannons, because our Hellblasters don't have the same kind of range. And the cannons will attempt to annoy those enemy chariots. Though at this distance, I'm not 100% sure they'll actually be able to hit them, much less damage them. We'll see. Also got to remember that the Lord here is not a marksman commander, so the cannons don't quite have the same kind of insane buffs that we could get there. They're still pretty solid at 9.6 reload time, but I'm willing to bet that with a Lord specialized for it, like with our Hammer of the Witches and generally our marksman or cannonry army that we're currently building, then we could probably get them down similar to the mortar war wagons to a minimum 4.0 reload time, and I'm very interested to see how strong cannons can be at that reload time, because the mortar war wagons are pretty damn strong, as we've seen. Anyway, enemy fast movers are obviously moving towards us. We're going to intercept them, one with our Lord, one with our Empire Captain, not on a Pegasus, mind you, as I decided not to have Pegasi in this army. The single Griffin is enough. But fortunately for us, the Seeker Chariots are rather fragile and getting torn to shreds as we speak. That is just the tip of the iceberg, or something else, Slaneshi Giggle. That's just the tip, basically. And there's plenty more where that came from, whether it be Seeker Chariots or Seekers as the enemy cavalry start moving in as well. We do, however, intercept them while they're still in the woods to make sure that we get them a little bit of a anti-large debuff from being forced to fight in the trees. And as soon as they move away from those anti-large halberdiers, they start getting gunned down by our handguns. Regular handguns, mind you, not Nuln Ironsides or Hochland long rifles or Gunderman Surefires, but strong enough to dish out plenty of damage nonetheless. And of course we got more halberdiers moving around to shadow the enemy and make sure that they can't quite reach our lines. Lovely. Alright, those first few units of fast movers have been taken care of. The enemy hits us with, I believe, its second now Penumbral Pendulum. The first one hit this unit of halberds, unless it was a Lash of Slann or something hit them, and did a fair bit of damage to them, but, well, what can you do? On the bright side, now that the enemy are close enough, not just the handguns firing away, but the units of, I wanted to say Iron Blasters, and man, I wish. Hell Blasters. Really too bad we couldn't manage to get some Ogre allies in this particular campaign. I really don't understand why Goldtooth really didn't want to be our friend. It's a bit of a shame, but what can you do? And then the Iron Skins, our only other Ogre ally, has at this point been destroyed by the, Zatan the Black faction. I forget what the name of his faction is. I suppose it doesn't matter over much, but anyway, destroyed by Zatan the Black. Just like that enemy lord, which was brought down by that Hellblaster, and the enemy army has now moved in, and, well, we're going to see if we can stand against the onslaught. The Halberdiers, led by the Altdorf Company of Honor, who are pretty intensely buffed up. Melee defense is up to 111 when we have Doom of Nagash, and now that we have Doom of Nagash, we can activate that lovely magical damage, which should come in very handy whenever fighting the Slaaneshi. Fascination is on these Halberdiers, which is causing them damage, but also forcing them into Rampage, though, luckily for us, I don't think we were going to move them away from the front line anyway, as we need them to protect the handgunners. Unfortunately, the enemy having twice as many units on field as us means that we can't stop them all, and some chariots, some seekers, etc. will reach our back lines, whether it be the artillery pieces or the handgunners. And of course, several of the enemy lords and heroes are looking to do the same thing, charging through our ranks and the enemies alike to close the distance with our back line. Though fortunately, they are no match for the General of the Empire on that Griffin, and we'll be booking it on out of there. Unfortunately, there's plenty more reinforcements where that came from, and more Seeker chariots have made their way forward towards the Altdorf Company of Honor. I'm just going to have to wait for another Doom of Nagash to get magical damage up and running again, though fortunately our handguns are doing a number on those enemy units of chariots. Alright, and the battle is very much in our favor at this point, about 70% I should say, and it looks like the enemy has at this point run out of reinforcements as well. We are still very much holding the hill. The handguns continue firing down at the enemy, including these stragglers that are still moving towards us, and while our cannonry can no longer fire at the enemy that is engaged with our halberds, and what they can do is fire at any enemies that trying to run away. I believe all but one of the enemy lords and heroes has been defeated. I think it was a cultist that's in here still. But that I'd wager not for too much longer. There we go. Between the Altdorf Company of Honor and the Lord, the cultist is down to maybe 10% of its HP. And with that, the cultist will shatter, and so will the rest of the army. As well, only the demonic units remain, and that not that many, because we were focusing on them more so than the marauders. The last one will melt, and with that, the battle is ours. Very nice. A lovely little debut for our first pike and shot army. Granted, our swordsman army kind of functions in a very similar way, just with weaker main line due to using swordsmen rather than halberds, but stronger range line due to using iron sides and other more elite gunners. Nonetheless, it was a fun fight. Oh, and of course we have artillery here, which we don't there. But anyway, battle's ours, and just the first, as these guys will be facing off against more Slaaneshi, hopefully more elite Slaaneshi, and the rats of Clan Molder as well. Alrighty, there we go. Fun first fight for the sort of classic army of just handguns and halberds and a little bit of cannonry as well. So pike and shot. The Altdorf Company of Honor did fantastic, in fact taking very little damage from the enemy due to their massive stats, and the aura that they provide, I'm sure, helped out a fair bit. Unfortunately, this army can't easily kill enemies in droves, so a decent amount of the enemy did escape, but being mostly marauders, it's not a huge concern since the critical units, the Seekers, the Seeker Chariots, etc., were by and large destroyed, which is great. Of course, we'll have to meet these guys in combat again, but that went pretty well. And I'm sure we got plenty of damage on everybody. 21,000 on Feldstrom's Revenge, and let's see, the Iron Concord, 38,000 damage. Very, very nice. I don't think we named halberds in this army because we have them named in the other army, though. But anyway, a lovely, lovely fight. And generally speaking, hold the hill battles are always just pretty fun to do, as sort of defensive style. Hold the hill as long as you're not using, certain units and certain hills and stuff. Rocket batteries would have been helpful here, but not if the battle was on a smaller map. But yeah, hold the hill, always nice. Though you'd think that with this being a Slaneshi map, with all that Slaneshi corruption, the Slaneshi corruption would cleft the hill into two. But anyway, we will go for Praise Sigmar. Alrighty, there we go. Lots of battles over that end turn. In fact, enough battles, I think. Let me just see here. Enemy killed in battle, enemy killed in battle. Sword of Strength, Potion of Toughness. Hey, nice. Tradesman, not bad. Barded Warhorse, Wailing Banner, sure, I guess. Coachman, sure, I guess. Imperial Pegasus for Ulrich Schneider. Who are you? Some guy, alright. Barded Warhorse, ready for duty. I don't know who you are. Hey, Protection of the Patriarch is up and running. Oh no, Plague. An unusual location. It's been a while since we've got one of those. Oh, the Plague keeps spreading, you frickin'. We even went for the Sigmarite Dogma here. And it's the Skaven Plague too, which is kind of awful to deal with. Let us get you the Sigmarite Dogma here as well. Komar, unusual location. What do we have here? Oh, I was going to trade these settlements away. What unusual location did we get here? Grail Knight Grave. Oh, that's actually very nice if you get it in the early game, but admittedly now it's not as useful for us, essentially because we're probably not going to have units sitting there in order to acquire the trait. Still, it's in theory nice considering I went many months, or like a year, without getting a single unusual location in any campaign. I don't know what that bad luck was. I don't know what happened there, but oh well, now that the last 2 or 3 campaigns we've been getting unusual locations, it's at least normalized. Anyway, we're out of time. I'm going to call the episode here. Next time, the Crusader armies have moved out, so they're going to essentially spread out into different territories and head to fight whatever enemies they can find. We'll send the Knights Panthers specifically against the Ogres, but we'll probably need at least 1 or 2 more armies to move through their territories, at least once we're done with Kugath and Exiles of Nehek, who admittedly still have a massive amount of territory, and still, funnily enough, don't hate us, but yeah, it's not like Teclis is pieced out with them. Man, Tomb Kings are so chill in some regards. I mean, their relationship with Teclis is also improving, despite the fact that Teclis randomly declared war on them and all that. Probably should have just wiped out Teclis instead and let them keep these guys. But whatever, we got some good battles out of it, and hopefully we'll get a couple more. Anyway, like I said, we're out of time, more stuff to come, and oh, we're gonna have to send somebody to hunt Skarsnik down. Why are you so useless, Karazakarak? Thorgrim had the greatest campaign on the channel, and then you promptly just drop the ball in every conceivable way in this campaign. You gotta try harder, man. But anyway, like I said, more Empire to come. Stay tuned. Likes and comments below determine length of the rest of this campaign. All glory to the algorithm, and thanks for watching.